I'll give you the dates for
Can you hear us, Ashley?
the next one.
Okay.
And it's
I'll
very,
watch it again.
Oh, I heard Ashley.
Say that again?
It's like,
very fuzzy. Just make sure all of the plugs are all the way in.
it's like, it's super clear.
How's that?
The two people who did it were super.
Still some sort of feedback. Is the
Oh, I hear her from here. I hear her from there.
Half a dozen months
I'm hearing her voice coming from this side of the table.
into themselves. And I heard people go through like,
How about now?
oh,
like code.
out for a minute.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Like,
Well, just, just back.
so this timeline.
Yeah.
Here's what we're gonna do. Here's what should. Here's
Right.
what should be done. Here's how it should be looking the next time. It's like super, and it's like there and there.
Is that any better, Ashley?
A little bit, but it's still missing.
Oh, I can hear her better. I can hear Ashley better. It's small town.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe on the computer tower, maybe turn the focus all the way.
Okay.
And then it's going through.
Okay.
And I was just like,
This was a Zoom, you said, right?
yeah.
Or was it like an hour long, 2 hours?
How about now?
A little bit better.
Two ways. It's the real deal. You're just like there, focused. Yeah. You're like,
Okay. Drink lots of coffee. Okay, got it.
Oh, now I don't hear you.
Is the audio working from the public side?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You hear us?
I hear you, but
in and
it's very
out.
scratchy.
Yeah.
It's distorted.
So where's the microphone you're speaking into, though?
Is any,
No, there's a microphone, the speaker wasn't on the table.
can you hear it now? No.
Your default microphone is changed to microphone 2. Just mic.
Well, the mics are numbered. Do you see on the table, where's number 2?
Yes.
Default mic says that's 2. That's number 2.
Number 2 are in the middle, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
yes.
Can you hear me clearly or faintly?
I can hear you clearly, but there's static in the background.
Okay, and I'm holding the mic right up to my mouth.
Yeah.
But at least if we figure out what works, it's a start.
And he's done.
Does anybody have their computer connected to Zoom?
Nobody's got.
I can bring it up.
I don't have mine on Zoom.
I can bring it up. I haven't yet.
Nope.
Seems like there's some sort of interference.
Yeah, mine's not on Zoom at all, and Reggie didn't have one. Or did I have Zoom? No, I don't have.
Mm,
Hello, Chris, how are you? You're muted. Oh,
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
very well, thanks. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
That's super, super helpful. I would just highly recommend it. It's like a lot.
maybe try leaving Zoom and coming back in
On the big
on the
screen?
big screen. Yeah,
Okay.
where the mics are connected to.
I thought we were already.
How's that?
No, you turn it off, you turn it back on.
You're muted, Ashley.
It's still fuzzy. Try turning the volume down a little bit on some of the mics or even the master.
Any better?
That's a little better, yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, that's much better too. Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's just too loud.
Okay. I got them about halfway.
Okay, I'll make a note.
Okay. So we have our first.
Are people locked down?
Reggie's out there.
Oh, right, it's out there.
Actually, if you just want to go grab Reggie and tell him we're about to.
Is the door unlocked?
It should be, but just double
Just
check.
in case, let me.
Ashley, can you
Is
hear
that
me?
unlock it?
I did not.
You
can hear
gotta
you, Jack.
push in the bar and use the
I'm
arrow key
not
to open
on
it.
the screen.
Will people be sitting? Actually, no, if you want to pull those back. That would be-
You're not where, Jack?
I'm not, I can't see the screen. I can hear a lot of the volume is tremendously loud.
Oh, on at the Coma?
Yes, I can't see them. Are they not on yet?
No, I see them on.
Hey, Reggie. Move to come out of executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I'm gonna, we don't have the first public hearing until 7:15, so I'm gonna go through a couple of resolutions. Be it resolved to hire Tiffany Claude as part-time police officer, a rate of $25.57 an hour, effective June 22nd, 2022, pending state required evaluation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
You got a duo on the second there. Oh, is Jackie there?
Yeah, Jack is there.
Yay.
Be it resolved to accept minutes for meetings held on May 24th, 2022, May 31st, 2022, and June 7th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And Jackie, I had no comments.
Oh, my God.
Be it resolved to accept town clerk's report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved to authorize payment of auditor vouchers in the amount of $261,702.48.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved to authorize transfers per transfer sheet.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved to accept the resignation of Dennis Lyman as full-time police officer effective June 12, 2022, and be it further resolved to hire Dennis Lyman as part-time police officer, a rate of $25.57 effective June 14, 2022.
Second.
I'll give that to Maria. All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved to accept the resignation of Matthew Van Valkenburg as part-time police officer effective June 21st, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved to hire Christian Delsgaard as part-time dispatcher, a rate of $22.53 effective June 22nd, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved to accept the resignation of Bonnie Wagner from the Human Rights Commission, and be it further resolved to thank her for her years of service.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I did get 3 or 4 letters of interest, actually they signed a sheet that they had over at the farmer's market. So I have sent out emails to all those folks, and if any of them get back for an interview, I'll let you know. Be resolved to create the Complete Streets Committee as an advisory committee to the Woodstock Town Board regarding the town's complete street policy. Be further resolved, the committee shall, 1, consist of 7 members selected by the town board. 2, the chair shall be appointed by the town board annually, and the committee shall appoint the chair annually.
Vice chair.
Vice chair, sorry. 3, committee members shall initially serve as follows. 3 members serve a 1 year, 2 members serve 2 years, and 2 members serve 3 years, and therefore all members shall serve 3 years. 4, the committee shall periodically report to the town board. And 5, the committee will determine its own meeting schedule, but will meet no less than once a quarter. Be it further resolved, the committee will provide a yearly written report and recommendations to the town board.
Second.
Purpose of discussion.
Yep,
So this would be a public body, right? This would be a
correct.
committee that would not just be advisory. It would have public, like the WC or the planning board. Would be
No,
a public body.
it's a public body. The WEC and this committee would be advisory to the town board. The planning board, the zoning board, they make their own, they would make decisions and determinations independent of the town board.
But it would be different from, say, it would be like any other committee which is formed by a resolution,
Mm-hmm.
but not statutory.
Correct.
Okay.
Good.
And if I may add, I would like to thank the current, because I believe this committee, when we do a resolution with the people's names, this will replace the current Complete Streets Committee. And I would like to personally thank, as liaison to Complete Streets Committee, the current committee who cares a lot, very dedicated, and brought us the policy and has done a lot of great work. So I'd like to thank.
Here, they did a great job.
Yeah.
Are all of them coming off? No one's going to stay on this one part?
I believe that they all wish to stay on.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay, I noticed when Laura said that.
yeah, no, they assumed that they would just roll over, and I said, well, no, we have a formal process.
Right.
So we would interview, or, if we're all comfortable with individuals, we can forego interviews, but that's a board decision. So, everybody good?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'm not ready for that one yet. Okay, is it 7:15 yet? No?
Well, you have the bottom thing.
Oh, that's resolution. That's for,
Right, that's a resolution. I mean, you could probably do it because it doesn't matter that it's not 7:15.
I got 10 minutes. I can reopen the public hearing on the local law allowing video and audio taping.
Sure.
So, any members of the public wish to address that? Ashley, anybody on Zoom wish to?
Nope, I don't see anybody.
No?
Waving their hand.
Any questions from the board? I'll offer this resolution. Whereas a local law entitled a
Do
local
we need
law.
to close the hearing or do
But he will,
No.
in part of the resolution.
It's part, yeah.
Oh, it's part of it.
Yeah. A local law allowing members of the town boards, commissions, and committees herein referred to as public bodies to participate in public body meetings via video conference was introduced before the town board of the town of Woodstock on May 24, 2022. And upon notice duly published and posted, a hearing was held on June 7, 2022 at 7 p.m. and recessed to the call of the chair. And the hearing was reopened at a meeting on June 21st, 2022 at approximately 7:05 p.m. And whereas public discussion was heard at such public hearing concerning the merits and significance of said local law, and whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has made it difficult for individuals to participate in public meetings due to health concerns, and whereas by passing Chapter 56 of the laws of 2021, Chapter 56, the New York State Legislature amended Section 103 of the Open Meetings Law, and whereas Chapter 56 adds Section 103-A of the Open Meetings Law permitting the town Woodstock Town Board to authorize members of all Town of Woodstock public bodies to attend meetings by video conferencing under extraordinary circumstances. And be it resolved that the Woodstock Town Board authorizes members of all Town of Woodstock public bodies who experience extraordinary circumstance as described within and further defined by any rules or written procedures later adopted to attend meetings of video conferencing as permitted in Chapter 56 of the laws of 2022. Be it further resolved that the Woodstock Town Board shall create written procedures further governing its use of video conferencing members of all Town of Woodstock public bodies in compliance with Chapter 56 of the laws of 2022. Be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed to enter said local law into the minutes of this meeting and to give further notice of the adoption of said local law of the Secretary of State of New York. Be it further resolved to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Just a question for clarification. Is there still in that past the requirement that a quorum of town board and other decision-making boards have to meet in person, and it's the balance that can be?
Correct. So if you look at the actual local law, that was just the resolution to adopt it. The local law itself has 4 sections. Section 3 actually has 9 points that must be complied with. One of them is that the quorum is located in the public space.
Okay, thank you.
Still got 10 minutes or 5 minutes.
Hey, Bill, I had a request for you to zoom in.
Hold on. What's that, Ashley?
I had a request for you to zoom in so we can see you better.
zoom in.
The remote on top of the thing, I think it's labeled.
Wait a second.
Probably, yeah. But it's such a good concept. I like these, I just like the idea of using that. Because it's such a.
That close enough, or you want closer? How's that?
That should be fine zoom wise. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, just to move it down.
Everybody likes that?
Also, anybody on Zoom, if you put it in speaker view when they're
What's
speaking,
that?
anybody who's on Zoom, if they put it in speaker view when you guys are talking, we'll have a larger view of you as well.
Get bigger.
Oh, isn't that lucky?
Instead of gallery view, if somebody puts on a speaker view, you see it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody got a joke that lasts 3 minutes?
We could just use this time just to meditate silently.
I mean, bet you could sing.
No, you could sing.
We'll do that. Why don't we do that?
Yes. We.
We'll start a new trend here.
Yes.
I don't know if it'll help us get people to come to the meeting or not.
Actually, there's someone who wanted to hop on the Zoom link, but I don't see it in my inbox for tonight's meeting.
It's posted on the town's website on the
That's
calendar.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll direct them there. Forgot. Thank you.
Laura, where did you get your?
Ooh, there's a very lovely, nice lady that's on Zoom.
That was a Christmas present from Ashley.
Oh.
Red inside?
It's beautiful. She had different colors inside.
Wow.
And the quality is fabulous. She did a fabulous job.
We're impressed.
Yes. Yeah,
We're
yeah,
jealous.
yeah.
Jackie, do you have the public notice? We're
Are
not
we
quite ready
talking
for it. What? Give us 2
can you hear-
minutes. Just want to make sure you're ready.
Can you hear me, Bill?
Yes.
CEA or the police?
The police.
Okay, just let me know when.
1 more minute.
Tick, tick, tick.
And Jackie, just so you know, I have Nick Henderson on Zoom.
Okay, is he the only one from the press, Ashley?
The only one
And
on,
Felicia's here.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if she can see you because you're
You
back
gotta
to the
turn around
camera.
and face the camera that way.
You can see me waving.
Longest minute ever.
Well, it's probably a minute and a half.
It's like watching the pot boil. But my laptop says 7:14, so it's, my laptop doesn't say 7:15
Yeah,
yet.
mine does too.
So there
It's
you
gonna
go.
happen soon. Boom.
15,
Yay.
there we go. Jackie, you're on.
Okay. The Woodstock Town Board, at a meeting held on May 24th, 2022, scheduled the public hearing for June 21st at June 21st, 2022 at 7:15 PM in the town offices, 45 Como Drive, Woodstock, New York, to hear comment on the proposed amendment to Chapter 162, Police Department Law of the Town of Woodstock to adjust police discipline procedures. All may now be heard.
Okay, before we get to the public, I just want to let everyone know that Chris Langlois from Gervin and Lazio, who helped write this law, is present and with us. If there are any questions, I know the board may have had a question or two. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically the town of Woodstock had our discipline policy written into the contract. And a few years ago, was it Tuxedo or Warwick? There was a legal challenge to that.
It was wall kills, what I think you're thinking.
Walk Hill. And so we've had to pull it out of the contract, and we're required to have a local law dealing with police discipline. So we already do have a local law in effect, Chapter 162, Police Department. So we amended that to include the disciplinary hearing. With that, is there any members of the public that has any questions about this?
What is this encompassing and what changes and why was there a Walk Hill challenge to their?
Chris, I'll let you, did you hear that question?
I did, and this would be good background for everybody. And please, if anybody has any questions as I'm speaking, or if you're having trouble hearing me, let me know. There's one of the laws, the Taylor Law, and that law obligates public employers like the town to negotiate with unions over terms and conditions of employment. Okay, you're required to engage in those negotiations. The subjects that for many, many years towns and unions negotiated over was the subject of police discipline. What's the process that we're going to follow to discipline our police officers? By default, the process for disciplining police officers and other public employees is in the Civil Service Law, Section 75. But under the Taylor Law, you can engage in negotiations with the union and come up with variations on that process, however you might agree. And that's what the town of Woodstock did in its current collective bargaining agreement with the United Federation of Police Officers, who had a section in there that talks about due process procedures, including police discipline. That was the state of the law for many, many years. And then beginning in 2006, the Court of Appeals, which is the state's highest court, started throwing some questions into that longstanding process. And what the Court of Appeals said is, yes, public employers are required to negotiate with police unions over discipline unless there is a state law on the books that commits police discipline to the discretion of local officials. And where there is such a state law in place, not only are you not required to negotiate regarding police discipline, you're actually prohibited from negotiating about police discipline. So the question started coming up in the course of, well, what state laws are we talking about? The first state law, all the New York City specific charter provisions that really didn't apply to us. One case that was decided in 2012 involved the town law, and that was the town of Wallkill case that has been mentioned. So basically, there's a town law section, section 155, that basically provides that the town board is authorized to adopt rules and regulations regarding police discipline. That case went all the way to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals agreed that because town law section 155 commits police discipline to the discretion of local officials, that's a prohibited subject of collective bargaining. You can't negotiate that into a collective bargaining agreement, and towns are authorized to adopt local laws, basically unilaterally defining what the discipline process is going to be. So that's what brings us here tonight. Again, you have a collective bargaining agreement, but technically those provisions are not enforceable because of the Court of Appeals precedent. So now, as an alternative, you're looking at adopting a local law which will define how members of the police department are going to be disciplined in the process that's involved.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else here in the audience? Ashley, anybody have any questions? No?
For hands, I don't see anybody.
No hands? Any questions from the board for Chris? Okay, so I'm going to recess the public hearing to the call of the chair, and we'll digest this for a couple of weeks and maybe bring it back at our next meeting. Okay. Chris, thank you very much for taking the time, and I'll give you a call in the morning.
Sounds great, Supervisor. Thank you very much. It was nice speaking with everybody this evening.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, be well.
We're really rolling through this.
Well, if you want to, you're going to do town board 5 minutes apiece, you can do,
Now, I do have one more resolution.
yes.
Be it resolved to establish the Church Road Remediation Capital number .093 for the purpose of remediating the construction, dumping, and slope stabilization at property located at 10 Church Road, Shady, New York, section block and block number 26.2-7-41, and be it further resolved, all costs shall be levied to the tax bill of 10 Church Road, Shady, New York, section block and lot number 26.2-7-41.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes.
So could you explain how the costs work and what the capital fund is for?
So the capital fund, towns can't spend money on, or taxpayer money on private property. What we can do though, however, is because of the local law that the property owner pled, or one of the property owners and the contractor pled guilty to dumping construction debris, gives the town the right to go in and do the cleanup and then levy it back to the towns. So that's in our local.
Levy it back to the.
Excuse me, to the property owner.
owner.
That gives the town the right to do that. So we do have 2 convictions on that, and the third property owner, the other property owner, provided testimony that such a thing had happened. We're giving the property owner the option of coming up with a plan, and he's met with a contractor, he met with town engineer, myself, about 2 weeks ago, and it's my understanding that we expect to have a plan proposed sometime this week. It may be a plan that we're agreeable to, it may not be a plan, but we have already expended some funds. We did some water testing we've spent legal fees, so we are gonna have to recoup some funds, and we're gonna have to pay for this. So that's why we start the capital funds. We can put monies in there that will be recovered.
The recovery is in the form of levying on the tax bill
Yes,
of the property.
at the end of the year, we levy back to the county, and the county makes us whole. The county then adds it to the tax bill, and it gets paid, everybody's whole. If it doesn't get paid, eventually they foreclose on the property.
But the property owner can decide who to address the additional.
If they remediate, if they remediate on their own, they pick who they're gonna have remediate.
Right. But they have to provide a plan. The agreement was they would provide a plan that we would review, and I'll review it with the Amy's and the other neighbors. And in talking with the contractor, he feels confident that he can get in there in August and do the remediation.
But to your earlier point, though, this does not address that plan. This is just about
This
paying.
is just about paying. It does not address the plan at all. It just gives us the means to pay for it. And you know, I hope conveys the message that we're serious about this and that we expect them to move. And if it doesn't happen in a timely fashion, we have the funds to engage a contractor to do so. So, any other questions?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So, still have 5 minutes. Who wants to go first, and then we'll do the rest?
He's looking at me.
You want to go first?
Well, sure, I have a list up here. Let me grab the list.
Sorry, Laura, I have a hand up.
Oh, he's a hand up. Okay, good, we'll do the hand
Was
first.
that you?
I believe it's in regards to the last.
Does somebody have a question?
Justin.
Yeah, hey, Bill, it's Joe Zarnecki.
Hey, Joe.
You had mentioned water testing. I think I heard in that. Have we got any results from that? I mean, I'm still drinking
Frank and Pam have them.
Uh-huh. And I'm drinking out of, filtered water right now. So I'm just wondering what the results were.
You know, since it's on their private well, I prefer they share it, but I can just, I'll just say that it all looks good.
Bill, we'll gladly share anything with Joe. We were just wondering why there was never a PFOA or PFOS test on this last test when there was on the initial test.
I don't know. They did the standard water test, the 5
they actually skipped that part because that was added, and that's why it was done when MacGyver tested it. Secondly, I just want to make this quick because I don't want to waste a lot of everybody's time. So I'm understanding that next week we're going to get a detailed removal and drainage plan so that we can review that, since some of this crap is washed onto our property, so we're directly affected. And it's
I believe we're supposed to get that this week.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to seeing that plan so I can have my attorney review it and everything, okay?
Got it, Frank.
All right, thank you.
The water thing to me is just a huge issue. I mean, I think, if it was any of your backyards, you would feel the same. I can't drink my water, and that's a concern to me. So originally I thought we were going to do testing more often, but I would just like to see results of it.
Frank said he would share them with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Laura?
Oh, do you want me to go?
Well, you can start.
I can start,
I'll give you 2
okay.
more minutes at the end.
Oh, there you go. Is that working as a mic?
Yeah.
Okay, alrighty. So this is the town board update. So things that I've been working on since I gave an update last month, some of those things you know about. One of them being the Housing Oversight Task Force law has been distributed, 300 pages long, although it's not all updated. It is redlined. And just a reminder to people, this is version 1, and hoping for everybody's feedback. If possible, by June 30th. I know the Zoning Revision Committee has already sent an email to, and if any updates you have, send them to the zoning updates woodstockny.org. And if you forget the email to send it to, go to the town website, look under the zoning updates on the left-hand navigator or in the middle, click on that, and it tells you the ID to go to, and all the documents are there as well. So a reminder to, I know committees are reading it. The zoning revision committee has said we're going to actually provide our input the week of July 11th because some team members have asked for that. But the sooner people can get it, the better, because the Housing Oversight Task Force wants to assume all of, gather all the input and figure out, how best to incorporate all the input. So I've been very active on the Housing Oversight Task Force, and that's a reminder to everybody on that. Complete Streets policy, as we know, was adopted, so that was some liaison to Complete Streets, so that happened since I gave the last update a month ago, but we know that because we were there. I would have CEA adoption, but that's really Bennett, I know, has been extremely active on CEA, so even though I'm liaison to the WEC, that's really, I would say, a Bennett item. What I've been extremely active on, and so has Arlene, I see Arlene is here, is we're at the moment calling ourselves the Woodstock Community Thermal Team, and that's the group working with the CHA consultant because we want to get some district-wide geothermal going on in town. So we've had a lot of meetings. We're trying to, as you may recall, we're trying to get an application in for a grant of $100,000 so that CHA can do an investigation at selected parts of Woodstock to see where a community district might be a good idea. So, and that would be at no cost to the town because the grant would cover that. So we're going for a grant. We're working, Arlene and I are working with 3 people, part of the Woodstock Energy Transition Group. We're calling ourselves the Woodstock Community Thermal Team and working with CHA on the grant, which we're looking to get submitted the middle of August. So there's a lot of work to be done, but Supervisor McKenna has already, with the blessing of the town board, sent a letter with the town support. The WEC has sent a letter with their support, and all this information is going to help with the application. And I just lost my list, but I'm getting it back. So other things going on right there is I had the pleasure to go meet the Peace Run people. The Peace Run is a worldwide organization, and they run for peace, and they meet with school children, they meet with communities, and they spread the message in peace, and that peace begins with the individual. Very cool bunch of people. So along with Lynn Shewart, our deputy supervisor, and Michelle, I'm probably butchering the names, anyway, and Michelle, the 3 of us went and met the Peace Run people, and they let us hold the torch. They gave a few gifts, a certificate, and the poster's in the hallway as you came in. So it was very cool to meet them and welcome them, because Woodstock's been part of the Peace Run and welcoming them for decades, actually. So that was a very cool thing to do.
Thank you for doing that.
That's it, that is it.
Okay, so 7:31, Jackie, could you read the next public announcement or public hearing?
This is regarding this CEA.
CEA.
Okay. The Woodstock Town Board, at a meeting held on May 31st, 2022, scheduled a public hearing for June 21st, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. in the town offices, 45 Como Drive, Woodstock, New York, to hear comment on the proposed Xena Woods Critical Environmental Areas, also known as CEA. All people can now be heard.
Okay. Alex, oh, sorry. Were you done, Jackie?
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Alex, do you want to take a minute or two and just give a very brief overview?
Sure.
This
Tell me what the
this is a mic.
No, there's one right there.
Well, I think, is that a speaker or a mic? That's a speaker.
No, they're
all mics?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, hi guys, thank you for having us. So just really quickly, in 2018, the comprehensive plan that was adopted by the town of Woodstock set forth strong environmental goals. These include strengthening protections for natural resources, reducing habitat fragmentation, and promoting conservation of land and water for climate resilience. One of the tools we have to work towards achieving these goals is through designation of 1 or more critical environmental areas in the town. At the request of the planning board and with the blessing of the town board, the WEC established a CEA working group and applied for and won fully funded technical assistance and training through Hudsonia and the Hudson River Estuary Program of the DEC to evaluate the landscape of the town and identify a target for CEA. This working group included members from the Environmental Commission, the Planning Board, the Town Board, and the Woodstock Land Conservancy. So a CEA, a critical environmental area, is a geographic area with exceptional or unique environmental characteristics. These could include fish and wildlife habitat, forest or vegetation, open spaces, spaces that benefit human health, and areas of important aesthetic or scenic quality. And New York state law authorizes municipalities to designate critical environmental areas within the municipal boundaries to bring awareness to places that deserve special attention in the course of land use planning, regulatory reviews of certain projects, and decisions about development and conservation. So the working group selected the Xena Woods area, 2,290 acres east of John Joy Road and Xena Road, in recognition of the importance of this area for ecological services to the human community. These are things like temperature moderation, flood resiliency, climate change mitigation, and drinking water abundance and cleanliness, valuable habitats for wildlife and plants, and support of local ecosystems. And after the public hearing, so the next step that we would be doing is asking you guys to pass this resolution designating the CEA. So there's one for each of you. This is a draft, but if you want to take a look at it, it'll show you what we'll be asking. Some of the items are starred. These are things we've been advised that the town lawyers should look over and help us with. So those aren't final wording, but this will give you a hint. And if I may use my comment time, I wanted to read an email that we received at the WEC email from a Xena resident who I won't name but gave us permission to kind of share this publicly because I thought that their response kind of spoke to the spirit of why we want to do something like designate a CEA. They were in attendance at the last Firehouse information session. And they wrote to us and said, when I arrived back at my home after the meeting on the evening of Wednesday, May 18th, I realized how many of the ecological features the WEC is attempting to protect are right in my backyard. I border the forest and spend much time walking the old trails and roads through this section. A century and a half ago, this land was part of the thriving bluestone industry. During this time, much of the land was stripped of vegetation and probably had little resemblance to what we see today. I often wonder what the area was like at that time, but nature did reclaim the space when industry moved on. Now those abandoned quarry pits are habitat for many species. When I bought my land and built my house back in the 1980s, I lived in a forest of towering white pines, hemlocks, and hardwoods. Nearly every pine has since succumbed to the pine borer, and many hemlocks to the woolly adelgid, not to mention the loss of every ash tree to the emerald ash borer. Faced with these losses, and in the hope of preventing such future devastation, I support the plan and sincerely hope that we can preserve what remains in the face of dramatic climate changes and economic development, not just here, but throughout the town and surrounding area.
No
you.
more anonymous, no. Technically, it's public hearing, so we are supposed to know who's
Oh,
saying
sorry,
Yeah, that's okay.
they didn't
That's okay.
tell me that I could share
That's
it here.
okay.
We
we
posted it on
shouldn't
our
do any
Instagram.
more.
Oh,
Thank you.
I'm sorry about that.
No,
I can
I
let
didn't
you
stop
guys
you.
know.
I didn't stop you. No, it's all
I
good.
was trying to be kind.
Yes.
And I don't know if anyone has any more questions. A bunch of us are here, so
Well, we'll open it up to
Feel
the public. So, Jeff?
Yeah, just,
If you could just come up so that we can get you on the mic.
sure you want me on the mic?
Absolutely.
So I own one of the biggest properties in the Xenia area, and I know who wrote that letter because they trespass on my property on a regular basis. It is a nice piece of property. I've owned it for 15 years. I'm an environmental advocate, as have the 4 generations of my family prior to. But there's some problems with the CEA that I see, and a lot of it have to do with, first of all, I don't think that the residents of Xena were well informed or well publicized. They did not get letters. Nobody really knew. There's a ton of people there. If you call most of the people in the CEA, they would tell you they had no idea that this was tonight. Because I called a lot of them and they couldn't make it. But I'll just go through a couple of different things. One of the problems that was brought up was that the reason we picked Xena Woods was because Xena Woods has a problem with subdivisions, and we don't want subdivisions down there. So I did some research. There's been 131 subdivisions, different areas of Woodstock, also in the areas such as Lake Hill and Wittenberg, since 2009 when the Watercourse Act went in. In Xena, there's been three one-lot subdivisions. So
Nobody ever said that.
Okay.
it was told to me that the concern was that it wasn't going to be done in Wittenberg, or it wasn't going to be done in Lake Hill because it's mountainous and it wouldn't have subdivisions. Now, give me my time because we gave you a lot of time. So as we go through it, right here it says the CEA designation carries no land use restrictions but simply raises awareness. And if I go back to here, raising awareness is great until you get to recommendations. A CEA does not make recommendations by the state. It's okay to bring awareness to these areas, but we're talking about minimal disturbance areas, keeping down forest floor wood, fire hazard, other issues there. Following the best management practice for timber harvest. It's already in our laws and our planning board and everything, so that's a moot point. Limit forest cutting to a period between November 1st and 31st. That was already in place, and that happened when we had the bats over here for the affordable housing. Minimize forest fragmentation, maintain connectivity, maintain broad forest corridors, and then we get more wetland stuff, the vernal pools, already covered by wetlands. Other wetlands, small streams, otherwise called by wetlands. Floodplains and those something, DEC, and zoning laws already, and wetlands. New culverts to maintain the continuity of streams, DEC, and zoning law. And it really starts to look like, more of a recommendation. A CEA, in its meaning, is bringing attention, not making recommendations. And then finally, when we talked about not doing anything, the last two elements are revised Woodstock zoning ordinance. That's not bringing attention to. Well, that's the biggest fear that I have, is that all of a sudden the CEA becomes the whip on the zoning ordinance, and it says revised Woodstock zoning ordinance to provide greater protection for vernal pools. If you're going to do a CEA, you have to live by the spirit of the CEA. You can't make recommendations. You can make recommendations on specific projects, but you can't make in general recommendations, nor should you suggest changes to the zoning ordinance. That's not the purpose of a CEA and shouldn't be included. And I would like the board to take a look, and also they want to revise the Woodstock zoning ordinance to provide protection against habitat fragmentation and other degradation of habitats and water sources. Again, I went back and I looked at a lot of minutes from meetings, and I went back quite a ways and didn't see anything that said that the town board asked for a CEA. They asked for advice. They asked for things to do. I think that it's, ill-advised that the board should approve the CEA, especially with the recommendations, and the threat areas that they have listed, as opposed to, the first elements that talk directly about, ecological services that exist. That's the job of a CEA. Tell me about what you got. Don't tell me what to do. That's the job of the zoning board. And then the zoning board can refer back, like they do to Hudsonia already, and they refer back to the Hudsonia studies to decide if the zoning changes are appropriate. But to have this in the CEA, I am strongly against, and hope the board is too, until that's removed and it becomes only an advisory document. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, when it's my turn, I have answers. When it's my turn.
Okay, well, right now we're just gonna listen to the
Correct.
public. Anyone else here?
Well, I gotta say, having been on the comprehensive plan committee with Laura, I don't remember CEAs ever coming up as a topic at our meetings. It never made it into the law. Under natural resources, which at the last meeting, it was commented that there's an aquifer in Xena we're protecting. Is that true? That was the reason.
I mean, technically, there's aquifers
Well,
all over.
no, I'm not,
Yeah.
but not sole
Yeah.
source aquifers like
Yeah.
the municipal. I mean, because the comprehensive plan, natural resources mentions three specific things. One is to adopt the aquifer law, which has been floating around for 22 years, which would be a great target for you guys to go for. Protecting the Salthill watershed. God bless Jerry Washington. Tried doing that for the same 20 years that he tried to get the aquifer law passed. They're specifically mentioned in the comprehensive plan, since it's the sole tributary to our aquifer is to protect the watershed. Again, a comment made at the meeting in Xena was that everywhere else in Woodstock is protected by other laws. Well, from the top of Cooper's Hill to the top of Meads Mountain, the whole watershed for the tributary to the Salthill is not protected. And we make recommendations to bring the same guidelines that the Willow and Wittenberg Valley have, that the DEP guidelines. 1 acre disturbance requires a SWIP, different reviews like that. So that's what was mentioned in the comprehensive plan. No one ever mentioned CEAs, not that I think they're a bad idea, but it never came up in any town board or firehouse meetings, any of the surveys. The term never came up. It was, first I heard of it was when someone mentioned that it was going to be coming into my neighborhood. So I really think we should adopt the aquifer law and protect the Salthill watershed before we go to Xena and try to protect an aquifer that I'm not sure if that's the reason. If it is, if you're saying there's an aquifer there, I think it's incumbent upon the town to do a report similar to the Horsley and Witten, do some type of delineation of the aquifer, explain to us the depths of the water, because aquifers don't follow roads. So it's not following Xena Road and popping down John Joy, you know. I'm on the western side of Xena, and if it's on the eastern side, you're telling me it doesn't come across Xena Road to my side of the road? So why is one side more important than the other if we're there to protect the aquifer? But I think it should be proven to us in some fashion that there is an aquifer there that's a valuable natural resource that we're trying to protect with another layer of review. I don't believe it's there. I mean, there's a lot of bedrock, and Ulster County Soils map says that there's no chance of any aquifer being there. So I think if that's what we're there to protect, and the town should prove that there is such an aquifer there. And have any projects that we approve, or I should say that the planning board approved since the adoption of the wetland watercourse law in the CEA, have any of those had a negative impact on the environment of any of the subdivisions or any approvals in that area?
I'm not aware of them.
Well, that might be something that somebody could research and come back and let us know if there's been something approved by the planning board in that district that's been a terrible environmental impact. Please let us know, but I have a list of a few here.
I mean, one could argue, Bill,
Well,
that...
could I finish, please?
Well,
Finish?
you answered the question, Bill.
Whoa, man. Well, that's
You
his problem.
did say, I'm not aware of any. I am aware of one.
What's that?
Where is it?
So, when you cut down any tree that is sequestering carbon, it is a negative impact. So cutting down of trees in the entire forest canopy from Maine through to the southern Appalachians reduces the amount of sequestered carbon.
I'm not arguing against that at all, but since you do bring that up, I'd like to ask Gretchen. Nice to see you again, Gretchen. Remember me? Yeah. We walked the Sender property together. Yeah. Remember, you walked it right after we promoted the Hudsonia mapping.
Yes.
We did the Sender, we walked it with the Forester and the WEC. There were no issues. You signed off on it, the WEC signed off on it. That was a logging permit, tree removal of a sensitive area that was okayed by Hudsonia, okayed by the Environmental Commission, I believe, because there was no comment saying this should be done differently. You walked it, they showed us where all the trees were falling, how they were gonna pull them away from the wetlands, so there was no negative report from anybody at that time. So my question is, and you can go back and research it, would this law require any more review of a special use permit for logging than what already happened on the Sender property, that no one seemed to have a problem with at the time? Another property in that area is the Corollas property. I don't know if anyone's like Corollas's properties. He came before us for a 7-lot, 9-lot subdivision initially, reduced it to a 4, tried to get multifamily. He got 2 lots up on the higher part of John Joy. The wet property is still for sale and has yet to be developed because of the review by the planning board and the wetland water course law and the buffers being too close together, not being able to get driveways through and enough house sites. So the wetland water course law, along with the Hudsonia biodiversity mapping, has pretty much protected that one sensitive property in our district with the existing laws. Michael Bacadari, you guys mentioned you've been working on this for a year. Well, it took Michael Bacadari a year and a half to get a subdivision. So that's Woodstock time, guys. You know, it's like, and you talk about clustering. That doesn't really work in our topography. It works in Columbia, Dutchess County with a lot of flat land. But it's hard to take houses when there's natural features and wetlands and pull everything to one area. If you got a big tract of land, that's a lot easier than it is in the Xena area or pretty much anywhere in Woodstock. So, you know, the clustering we did in Bacadari prior to the wetland water course law, we brought all the houses to the front. Again, this was done by the planning board before the CEAs were mentioned, prior to the wetland water course law. So I believe the town board, volunteer boards in the past have been very sensitive and I think have done a good job reviewing and approving projects. Chris Compton, who's on your board, bought the Jerry Simonetti lot. He was able to get, Jerry Simonetti, bless him, was able to get 1 lot on 10 acres because of wetland restrictions. Mr. Compton had to put a bridge in with abutments on both sides of a little tributary to the Xena Reservoir. So again, he wasn't allowed to just put a culvert in, hop across the stream. The guy went through probably 6 months, 9 months of review, and it was a condition on the approval of the Simonetti subdivision at the time. Again, our wetland water course law is 23 pages of our zoning law. It's the heaviest section of the zoning law. And my feeling is, after being on the board for years, between the wetland water course law, the Hudsonia biodiversity mapping, that those are tools that if the boards, volunteer boards use properly, I don't think you really need any other review because I have yet to see any negative impact on any type of development in that area since then. And if this, I believe there's an aquifer down there, the city of Kingston would probably be taking advantage of it rather than pumping water all the way out of Cooper Lake.
Next, Greg.
Hi, Greg Fabio. I've lived in Xena for 40 years. How many of you people know that there's an airstrip in Xena? You know that?
Yes.
And you know how much it's used? It's called a grass strip in the woods. And it's used not a lot, but once in a while. Now, if the CEA starts to tell people, tell the zoning board and that what to do, are they gonna let that exist? I mean, is all that gonna stay as is? Also, why are you singling out just the Xena area and this map? Why don't you do the whole town? What's the reason for just part of it? I don't get it, you know? It just doesn't seem right to me, okay? Now, if I live in this area and I want to get a building permit for something, do I have to go do more than before? Do I have to have the approval of the CEA before I can get a building permit? Is that gonna be part of that?
My understanding is now, no.
No. But will it? I mean, eventually? Don't know.
No.
And never will. All they're gonna do is make recommendations. I just can't understand why you're not doing the whole town. And you're singling out a piece of area. And I can see on this map, I mean, you've got a lot of areas down here. Well, I'm right next to Xena Rec. I'm right next to Lauren Court. Lauren Court's not in it at all. Xena Rec is in it, and some of these other places. And then And then one of the biggest culprits is the city of Kingston with the water department down there. They're terrible. I can remember years ago, they used to keep all that property nice and neat. They used to mow the grass, they used to clean up, remember all along the road there, what does that look like now? I understand all those dead pine trees down there and the eagles, fine, but that pine trees should have been out of there a long time before the eagles got there. So, I just don't understand what the reason is, and I don't really think it's necessary myself.
Thank you, Greg. Anyone else here? Ken? So do me a favor, I did get a text from our town clerk, if everyone could just announce their name.
Yes, for the record, my name is Kenneth Panza. I'd like to speak in favor of the CEA. The town board had released, or recessed, considering the CEA until after the new zoning law was released. And so I'd like to comment on the CEA as it compares to the new zoning law and how it might impact it. I feel I have a pretty good background in this. I've been working on the CEA with the WEC. I wasn't on the committee, but I certainly have been involved in the public sessions. I was heavily involved in the natural resources inventory, where we built all the maps. I was involved with Ingrid in the habitat mapping many years ago. So I have that background. And plus I was familiar with the zoning law, the old zoning law. I mean, the 300 pages, I went through the whole thing. It was sort of a trip down memory lane with the wetlands and water course, like Paul mentions, is a big session, but you have the old fracking laws in there and things like that. So I feel like I can make that comparison. As I look at the new zoning law, there's three areas I would relate the ZEA to the zoning law. And that has to do with major subdivisions, minor subdivisions, and then the 3-plex and 4-plex housing. On the major subdivisions, the CEA is nowhere close to the requirements imposed in the new zoning law. I mean, the new zoning law, as you set aside 50% of the property, it requires land conservancy assignments, a thorough site review, which includes much more than just the woods and the forests and the vernal pools, agricultural areas and buildings and farms and things like that. I mean, it's a much more extensive and much more rigorous requirement than the CEA imposes or recommends. I mean, while the major subdivisions, things are required, the CEA merely makes recommendations to the planning board. So from the viewpoint of the major subdivisions, the CEA and the documentation that goes along with Xena Woods is just another piece of recommendation that goes along with the habitat and the mapping. For the minor subdivisions, there's not really that much change from what we have now. The new zoning law updates the requirements for the planning board review to explicitly include environmental reviews. That doesn't really seem to have been in there before. But as Paul mentioned, the planning board did those sorts of things, especially with the wetlands. But now, now the planning board has the access to the natural resources inventory, which is new, but it also requires them to consider the impact on the forests in the Xena Woods area. On the 4-plex and 3-plex housing, if that was on a single lot, someone's going to build a single family home, there would be no planning board review. It would just be a matter of right, you get a building permit. But with the new zoning law, those sorts of buildings would have to go before the planning board for a review. And at that point, the planning board would also be able to review the environmental impact in the zoning woods. So I think the CEA is really just recommendations. It really documents the Xena Woods area and the continuity and the habitats and the wildlife type of considerations beyond just the wetlands and watercourse. And I think that sort of recommendation and those sorts of emphasis are important for the planning board to consider. But, the new zoning law is going to make a lot of changes, and the CEA is just really supplemental and complementary to what the new zoning law is trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
Anyone, member of the public, audience?
Do I need to stand over here?
Yes.
Hello, Ingrid Heckel, Hudson River Estuary Program at DEC.
Oh,
The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Hudson River Estuary Program recognizes and praises the critical role of local governments, such as Woodstock, in our collective conservation work. Our program seeks to raise the capacity of watershed communities to proactively consider their natural assets, set priorities, and plan for a resilient future that sustains healthy ecosystems and quality of life for residents. In 2021, we selected the town of Woodstock through a competitive application process to participate in a critical environmental area technical assistance and training opportunity to advance local conservation priorities. The Woodstock CEA Working Group, including members of the town board, planning board, and environmental commission, worked diligently over the course of 6 months with our partner Gretchen Stevens from Hudsonia to develop this proposal, drawing from the recently completed NRI, the town comprehensive plan, and prior studies, as well as considering regional and statewide scientific data sets. The Xena Woods area contains exceptional forest and wetland resources on a town scale and from a regional perspective. Most of the CEA ranks within the top 5% of Hudson Valley forests in terms of size and relatively intact, unfragmented condition. Ulster County also identified most of this area as within an intact habitat core with high condition. And the Nature Conservancy's Resilient and Connected Landscape Initiative furthermore identifies this as an area with high resilience value for biodiversity in the face of climate change, owing to extensive connected habitat and complex topography. State and federal regulations do not on their own protect regional resources such as these. Under home rule, municipalities play an important role in ensuring the long-term persistence of valuable natural areas. Critical environmental area designation is a tool to raise awareness about these important features and ensure their consideration as future development is planned in Woodstock. So I want to thank the working group for their hard work on this project. And I recall meeting Paul and going out. I walked probably at least 100 properties in Woodstock during the habitat mapping project about 10 years ago. But in general, Hudsonia didn't make specific recommendations about projects, so I can't recall specifically.
No, but
what
you
we may have
didn't,
said.
you didn't say there was anything wrong with it either.
But that wouldn't have been our role. So
Okay.
just wanted to make that clear. But and as the gentleman, just to clarify, answered the questions, this designation wouldn't impact regular building permits or the operation of an airstrip or things like that. So
Thank you.
questions about what's needed, definitely answered. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe we have a couple online. Andrew Mosey. Andrew? Or Andy, sorry.
Yeah, Andy Mossy, like a mossy tree, easy to remember. Hey everybody, my name is Andy. Thanks very much for hosting this and having this conversation about the CEA tonight. As the new executive director of the Woodstock Land Conservancy, our involvement as an organization has been involved right from the beginning of this, and we've had staff members on site, including Maxan, participating in the process before I came on board, and then Melissa, our stewardship and land acquisitions coordinator, stepping in to fill that role. So between all of our staff work, we are quite determined that we are obviously in favor of the CEA for a number of reasons. And one of those biggest reasons is that when we walk the land and we see a lot of these ecosystems that are identified within the CEA, we notice all these unique little pieces of flora and fauna, and that is really something for us to keep in mind as we move forward in this process. Climate is not just a problem in our backyard. This is we have a serious climate condition that is moving across the world, and it really comes down to what can we do in our own backyard. And while the CEA is not something that is really going to create a huge wide swath change across the board, it is going to provide educational tools for not only landowners, but also the town board and planning board to make better decisions for development processes. And as we go through those checklists, it's important to have as many tools in our box to give us the correct information to make changes that are best for the future and for our habitat and climate. So because of all those reasons, we are in support of it. And the last thing that I would say is just to echo what others, including Ingrid, have said, that this is not, the CEA is really not here to create regulation. It's really just here as an educational tool. And so development, especially when it comes to private landowners and those individual people doing, those smaller building processes, is not really going to affect those. This is really just on the broader scale and to provide education. So thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, Andy. Judy Kerman?
I'm Judy Kerman. I am a member of the planning board. I was also on the CEA work group and on the Housing Oversight Task Force that generated the new proposed code for zoning. I want to answer the question, why Xena Woods? Because that comes up a lot. We looked at the entire town and we looked at the things that everybody knows matter, like the areas in the view shed. And I think the town has had a tendency to think about aesthetics and tourism value. But the result has been that a lot of the highland country is protected already. As a member of the planning board, it was incredibly useful to me to have my attention drawn to the Xena Woods area. It's very easy not to notice. I drive down Sawkill Road all the time, and I don't think about it as the kind of really valuable resource that it is. Recently, I've seen a couple of maps of the world forest and the kinds of tree cover that make such a difference to the future of our planet. And I want to tell you, we are in that world forest. Every time, yeah, I know this sounds extreme, but every time someone cuts down a tree without thinking about it, they are contributing to deforestation and they are contributing to climate change. That doesn't mean people can't cut down trees, but thinking about it makes a difference in what you decide to do. Unlike, in contrast to what a number of the speakers have said today, but in support of what other people have said, the CEA does not require any particular decision. It is not regulatory. We already have a CEA in town. It covers all the DEC wetlands. And it was essentially not regulatory until the town itself decided to pass a wetlands and watercourse law, which made it regulatory. But the CEA itself only was a reminder to the town to pay attention. I want to make two more points. Well, one more point, actually. The aquifer. The natural resources inventory shows an aquifer under part of that ZEA, that Xena Woods area. It may not be an aquifer we are currently drawing water from. It might even be an aquifer that downstream is drawing aquifer water from. I don't know that. But it is on the map as created by the Natural Resources Inventory. So we need to pay attention to it. I will stop there.
Thank you, Judy. Anyone else online, Ashley?
Susie Kessler had mentioned earlier she wanted to speak, but I haven't gotten confirmation.
Susie, do you wish to say something, or you good?
Is this publicly heard yet?
It's a public hearing.
No, we're in a public hearing talking about the CEA, Frank. Okay, any more comments regarding the public hearing? Okay, I'm going to bring it back up to the town board. Maria-Elena, did you want to address anything this evening?
As far as some of the committees that I'm liaison to, you mean? Is that what you
No, we're in the public hearing.
Well, the CEA, specific to the CEA.
Okay. Anna?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out two letters, one from April 23rd to 2021 to Ms. Gretchen Stevens from Hudsonia, from the supervisor. Dear Ms. Stevens, the Woodstock Town Board is grateful to Hudsonia and Hudson River Estuary for their offer of training and technical assistance to the communities in the 10-county Hudson River Estuary. that wish to designate the critical environmental areas. Should the town of Woodstock be selected as one of the 2 communities to receive this training, several residents representing the Woodstock Planning Board, the Environmental Commission, the Climate Smart Task Force, the Land Conservancy will form a volunteer working group. They will review the 2020 Town of Woodstock Natural Resources Inventory and the 2018 Woodstock Comprehensive Plan, among other documents and resources, to 1, identify and evaluate prospective CEAs, decide on proposed CEA boundaries, communicate with other municipal boards and the public, assist with developing the written justification, and move the project through the adoption process, amend the comprehensive plan to include CEAs. They will do so with the wholehearted support of Woodstock's town board and the town of Woodstock's other groups and committees involved in land use. We appreciate your considering the town of Woodstock for this opportunity. Signed by the supervisor, Bill McKenna. And this was April of 2021. The second is November of 2021 to the town board, a memorandum from Peter Cross to the town board and Supervisor McKenna on the proposed Xena Woods CEA. We, the planning board, have invested considerable time and energy this past year to learning about and discussing critical environmental areas. We are very pleased and thankful to the Town of Woodstock CEA Working Group, which includes members of the town board. I actually am a member of the CEA Working Group. The Planning Board, the Woodstock Environmental Commission, and the Woodstock Land Conservancy, and the work that has been done with Gretchen Stevens of Hudsonia and members of the DEC in researching and developing the Xena Woods CEA. The Planning Board and its members support the proposal for the Xena Woods CEA and the findings as outlined in the proposal. Moreover, we all agree that all Woodstock governing bodies must plan for the future development of our town focused on environmental sustainability. Thank you. And this is a memorandum from the chair of the Planning Board, Peter Cross. So I just wanted to make sure that those 2 pieces of work that had already been done, the supervisor's work, and the chair of the planning board were entered into this public comment period.
Thank you.
So I made some notes about things that were said that I wanted to respond to. So one thing that was said was people were not notified of this public hearing. My understanding is people were notified the way they're always notified of public hearings, because I think part of what Jackie read earlier was the public notice of the public hearing. It goes in the newspaper 2 weeks ahead of time. So people were notified the same way they're notified of any public hearing or other public meetings. There was a concern that this is raised as recommendations. Well, people have already said, right, it's not regulation, they are recommendations. And if you're going to be raising people's awareness, it makes sense that you would give recommendations, not only raise awareness of the value, but also give some advice. So nobody's forced to do these things, but I think recommendations are a healthy thing to do when you're raising awareness. One person said there's no aquifer. We heard Judy say there is an aquifer. I found a map I got from Judy that shows where the aquifer is. So if anybody wants to see where the aquifer is in this area, I have it up on my screen right now. I'm not hooked in to show it here, but Judy said there's an aquifer, and I'm looking at the map that shows the aquifer.
I can show it.
Who created the map?
Well, Judy is our mapper from the town, and her mapping comes from a lot of trusted sources. So I got the map from Judy, who creates maps with trusted sources.
I can draw blue on a map too.
Well, she gets it from
Okay.
trusted sources.
No back and forth.
Okay.
Good study though, just,
Okay.
maps, God knows where they come from.
It comes from the Natural Resources
Okay, Judy,
Inventory.
no back
Well,
and
she's trying to explain. She's showing the map, and she's trying to explain where, it was asked where it comes from, and she's trying to explain where she got her information
Okay.
from.
Natural Resources Inventory.
Thank you, Judy.
Okay, so other things, I know when we discussed this at the town board meeting back in February, I was the one that said more homework needs to be done, more notification needs to happen. I commend the WEC, I commend Alex in particular. She gave a fabulous presentation at a previous, after the February town board meeting. I forget what the date of the next one was, but Alex gave a fabulous presentation. The WEC held a WEC meeting in the middle of May at the Xena Firehouse. People were invited, the room was full. So I think that the education on what this is all about has been done in a fabulous way, thanks to Alex and the WEC and all the homework that's been done. So I am for it. I am for the CEA. I think a lot of great homework has been done. I think the right homework has been done. And I believe this has not hurt anybody because it's not a law. Oh, the other thing about the law, well, you shouldn't have a law, and it says there ought to be zoning ordinances. Well, as was brought up by Ken, and I was a member of the Housing Oversight Task Force, that law, not because the CEA said you ought to have a zoning law, but it was common sense to Woodstock. We want to add housing, we want to do it in an environmental way. There is going to be more environmental protection that comes out of the law, came from the Housing Oversight Task Force. And as Ken said it very well, the two things are supportive of each other. The CEA and the Housing Oversight Task Force proposed law are supportive of each other in terms of environment. So I don't believe the CEA hurts anybody. I believe it helps. The letter that Bennett read about, well, the planning board says, hey, this helps. This will help the planning board giving guidance as they give guidance to people. It'll give people guidance. It does raise awareness. So I think it achieves the objectives in a healthy way that's not hurtful.
Laura kind of answered some of it, because I did just want to ask about notification. I know, was it, Alex, did you reach out and get like a list of, I don't remember who, I saw those emails going back and forth about, because I thought part of
The May 18th
plan
meeting,
was-
you mean? In the Siena Firehouse?
Right, and the homeowners are going to be contacted like by letter or something. Can you just talk about?
Sure, so for both of those meetings, the town board, I guess it was the town board meeting that we presented at, and then the Xena Firehouse meeting. We attempted our best to contact as many people as possible in the area and in the town itself. We used letters, written letters, emails, social media, and regular media, as well as posting the information on the town website, the town Facebook pages, the town calendar, the WEC Facebook page and website, pretty much anywhere we could get it. At some point, we did also ask for phone numbers for Xena residents, and that was a bit trickier to come by, but we were able to get some of them and call people where it was possible. And Bill assisted with that as well, contacting people that he knew lived in the area.
And will there be any more opportunities for folks that live in that area?
So I won't close the public hearing tonight. I'm going to recess it to the call of the chair. And when we bring it back, just like with the local law for the video conferencing, you know, if we decide we want to move forward with it and adopt this, prepare a resolution, you gave us a draft, and the EIF, and reopen the public hearing. So we'll notify the public of that.
So our next step as the working group is that we, and this is one of the things that we would recommend and we work with the town lawyer on filling out, is the environmental assessment form. It's a pretty long and official document. We would then present it to you guys, the town board. Once you can go over it, it's in the resolution that you've seen it and it's been done, which is why partly it's a draft. So you may want to wait until that's finished before you guys are reconsidering this, because you're gonna have to go through it.
Yeah, Bridget's yeah. So I had a quick question for Alex. The recording of your Xena Firehouse meeting was recorded, I believe. I didn't know. Is it on your website, town website?
It's on the WEC Facebook page.
Okay. I didn't know if it helped because it was very educational. I didn't know if it would help to have it.
That's on the Facebook page because it was live streamed and recorded. Gretchen Stevens' original presentation to the town board is on the WEC website.
The WEC page.
Use
of the
it,
town.
link it to YouTube. So
Yeah.
you can access it from there as well as the justification document and a CEA fact sheet from the DEC.
Yeah.
And are those on the town website also?
Well, they're on the WEC page
They're on the
of
web
the
page
town
it was
website.
connected to.
Yep.
At the town website.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And you said something is on Facebook. Was it the ZEA? Not
The
ZEA?
Xena Firehouse
page.
presentation.
You said that's on the Facebook page.
That's on our Facebook page, as well as all the other documents are on there as well.
Can we get that on the town website?
Well, that's what I was kind of asking. I didn't know if there was a reason not to.
If someone knows how to port it from Facebook to there, I don't see why not. No one's holding it out.
We would ask Ashley to do that on our behalf, and she.
I do not think that we can do a video on our website. I could try
No, it's
putting
just
it
a
on
link.
YouTube.
Just a link, Ashley?
Yep, I could do a link. I could also share your video post to our Facebook.
I'm saying for people that don't have Facebook.
But it was a Facebook recording, so the question is, can you take a Facebook recording and lift that and put it on the town website?
I can try. No guarantee.
the link
it's
at least.
It's worth looking at
If
it.
you don't have Facebook, the recording is on Facebook?
Yeah.
So if you don't have Facebook, the link doesn't do you any good.
Well, most people can, if you get the link, most people can get to it. Well, it's worth a shot. It's what can be done. It's not like Ashley will do what can be done.
We'll look at that.
Okay, I had one more thing I did want to say. The other thing that came up is the comprehensive plan doesn't say do a CEA. Well, I pulled up the comprehensive plan. I didn't mean to be not looking at the speaker as they spoke, but I was looking for the things to confirm what. It does say on the top of page 40 of the comprehensive plan, a conservation action program should include identifying sites with high conservation value and coordinating with landowners to advance mutual interest for long-term conservation of these resources. It doesn't say build a CEA, but it sure sounds like a CEA solves that, in my opinion.
Well, it is missing the coordination with the landowners.
Well, I'll tell you that the Xena Firehouse meeting happened. We're having a public hearing now. As you just heard, the WEC say they reached out by phone, by social media, by letter. They reached out to invite people when there was a town board meeting where Alex presented, and then for the Xena Firehouse.
It's just
So
amazing that 3 landowners own 50% of that land and none of us have been asked to participate or get more involved. I think that's a big miss by the town board, big miss. Because it is gonna impact the value of my property by putting the CEA on it.
it might improve it.
I actually did the research, and the CEAs, of which there's under 150 in New York State, traditionally reduce the value of the property by 28 to 32%. I can provide you with that report.
I would love to
That'd
see
be great.
that. That'd be very welcome. And I don't want to leave out that there was a sign in front of the Xena Firehouse for almost 2.5 weeks announcing that there was going to be a firehouse meeting there. It was graciously done by the firehouse, and it was greatly appreciated. And all of the community members who use the firehouse and drive by the firehouse on a regular basis and live there in Xena would have seen that very large sign announcing the date and the time. The community was well informed about when this meeting was taking place.
That's important to me to make sure. That's why I was asking about
Yeah,
notification. I wanna make sure
there was a sign there.
that
It had
people-
all of the times and dates.
Yeah, the sign was there, it said CEA. How many people in Xena knew what a CEA was?
It said Xena residents. It started out,
It
it
said
said,
CEA.
Okay.
No one knew it was that it was a term for critical environmental area. And another thing, Adam Sender owns most of the land down there. Has anybody contacted the guy who owns most of the land and got his opinion?
I have.
And has he worked with you guys? Has he been invited to any of these meetings?
I don't know that he
to
spoke
go
with the
over
group, but I did make him aware that this was going on.
Jeff, City of Kingston, Adam Sender?
I talked
the city of Kingston was notified about this. You notified them, and the water department, is that
The
correct?
City of Kingston, the City of Kingston Water Department, the town of Hurley, the Catskill Center, which owns and partially operates, what's it called, Tara? The preserve that's over there, someone else too. Anyone who was not a private landowner was also notified.
I am going to move to recess the public hearing to the call of the chair. What I would ask you three gentlemen, what I'm going to plan to do is put it back on the agenda for July 19th. That gives us enough time to deal with seeker, and I'll reopen the public hearing. So if you could put it in your calendars and please spread the word down in Xena. We'll post it on our website again and on Facebook. But if you could help, reach out to Adam Sender again personally and let him know that we'll be talking about it again on that day. Right?
And folks can email us directly also if they just have comments, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, so at this point, like we are running out, it has been out there a while. I understand some of the, wording, all of that, but then initially, you want to find out or you're starting to hear buzz about it, this is the time to get it in because I think the last time we talked about it was in February. Was it
Well,
February?
I don't know when the meeting was. You came to a town board meeting after
Was that
February.
February
We
or
had
March?
on the agenda
March.
February, and then you
Right.
came at a subsequent meeting to present.
Yeah.
Likely.
And one of the, Reggie, just to that, if I may, one of the problems that we faced at that meeting was that a lot of questions had been directed before that meeting to various people who had more or less amounts of knowledge. And I know that a lot of misinformation was communicated during that time, so people showed up with a lot of questions where they hadn't heard the answers. So we are encouraging anyone to ask questions as much as possible because we want everyone to know what's going on. But if we would ask as the working group, if someone writes to you guys or to anyone you know with a question, to let us help answer it because we have Ingrid and Gretchen who are the experts, we have ourselves who have been working on it, and so we can provide direct factual information that isn't what someone heard from someone to someone, who told someone else. So we would love to be able to answer as much as possible.
Excellent. Okay. Going to move on to reports. Laura, you gave yours. Reg?
I'll give a quick one. CSAC had a great stone day on June 5th. I don't really have any other updates right now, and I've got to use the restroom.
Go, Bill.
We won't stand in your way.
Maria-Elena?
Now I'm ready.
Okay.
Didn't realize we were done, sorry about that. Okay. Senior rec, I've been working with those folks, they're really great, and they have their schedules ready for the summer, and they've relayed that to town hall as well as the firehouse, so everyone is harmoniously working together, which is great. That way the seniors can continue their classes for the summertime. Also, I have yet to hear back again from the appliance business in Kingston Fiden. I had asked for their assistance to see if we could get a dishwasher for the community center. This would have to be in compliance with the Ulster County Health Department, which requires it to sanitize at 170 degrees or higher. And this would be for the senior lunch program. If I am not able to get an answer from that particular business, then I need to spread a wider net to find a dishwasher that would sanitize at that level, at that temperature. But I don't want to give up because I do want to make sure that we can try to get that senior lunch program going for those folks. And realistically, probably if we can get something in so that maybe we can start it in the fall after the summer recreation ends, that would be great. But I'll also look at other ways of trying to fund that. I have a couple more things real quick. Housing Committee will be meeting tomorrow night. But of course, their next steps, we'd like to see, the allocation of the first round of ARP funding, which was promised towards affordable housing, as well as the home share program. So we want to see, they've given 2 presentations already. They've also looked at the ARP funding guidelines from the Treasury Department. So that every their recommendations adheres to that guide. So they're ready to move forward with the guidance from the town. So I'd like for us to be more proactive and move forward with that so that we can allocate the ARP funding for affordable housing. This also goes for the Home Share Woodstock program. We've done a lot of outreach to the community. We've been at Woodstock Farm Fest as well as other farmers markets, doing a lot of outreach and education to the community and the surrounding communities. One unfortunate thing was that the Home Share Woodstock did not receive the AARP grant that we were hoping to get. So that's why this ARP funding is so vital. So we're hoping we can start allocating that as soon as possible.
Ben?
Just a couple of things. The tree committee has been working with Onteora and the Woodstock Elementary School and several other private businesses to try to find places for trees and memorial trees. I understand that the Woodstock Elementary School and the tree committee are very excited about the opportunity to put some trees there along 375. The tree committee also is interested in receiving a maintenance and upkeep budgetary line item for the memorial trees, so that there is a dedicated source to take care of the trees that are being planted. Woodstock Land Conservancy provided feedback to some questions that we had asked about planting and farming Christmas trees possibly in a section, and they state a section in the Como, and they stated that that to be native, and they would recommend that we select from a list of native trees if this was something that we wanted to do, and also outline several other things that we should do. I passed it on to all the town board members. In addition, the Land Conservancy stated that if memorial trees were going to be planted in the area, sort of Sled Hill meadow, that a plan needed to be presented first before that took place. And I passed that on to the tree committee, who is going to be looking at places for more memorial trees. What else? The Noise Law Committee is going to be meeting Tuesday the 28th, hopefully 1 to 3 o'clock. We're in the process of notifying the members about that, and this is just an advisory group to conduct our first meeting after the listening session. The Chamber of Commerce has a new logo and has rehabbed some of the building that they own on the stock property there by the music shop and adjacent to the parking lot. And wanted to thank the vendors for graciously moving and the board for helping them to figure out how they could continue to.
Saturday, and asked them all to move a little bit further away from J Street.
I was just going to ask about that.
That
so
was,
thank
yeah.
you.
That's really great, and thank you very much.
And they were very cooperative and appreciative,
And thank you to the lovers, Linda and Terry, for reaching out initially to give us a heads up.
And I don't think I need to recap what I've been doing with the CEA.
So that's it for, now did you guys, you asked me to put on a topic for fund balance?
Yeah, I'd like to have a discussion about using the unappropriated fund balance and finding a way that we can, take advantage of what is clearly an excellent windfall. I'd like to know, is there a timeline for when the final fund balance numbers would be, presented? And if we can present plans for uses for the fund balance.
So I had hoped to have it for this week. Pam was away for 2 weeks, which put her a little behind schedule and backed up. So she and I only just now had an opportunity to look at the different funds and start to discuss where I think my recommendations will be. So I expect at the next meeting or before the next meeting to have my recommendations to the board.
And will this be for the 600,000 plus, that's the general fund? Or will it also be for the 600,000 in the highway and the?
600,000 in the highway is for the highway superintendent.
And so will the highway superintendent?
Those recommendations that he gives to me will be passed
on. And is there a timetable for that?
You'll get them for all the funds. water, sewer, on-site, highway in general.
And will they be making presentations about it, or will this just be, how will it be presented?
Yeah, it just comes in like a transfer sheet form. Various funds that I would make the recommendation.
I mean, I think this is an unprecedented amount of money that we should look into reinvesting in certain things. I know that all of our planning board, the WC, the tree committee, the committees and volunteer committees, all are asking for line item budgets, which have been whittled away. And I don't see why we couldn't provide a one-time stipend of several $1,000s for each of them. I mean, in addition to that, I think we should look at ways not just to send the money to
Well,
various.
we can't, this money won't go back into this year's budget.
But it doesn't have to go into this year's budget. It could be allocated for something this year. It could be used for something this year.
There are certain restrictions. Give me your proposals.
So this is a call for proposals to town board members and to the public to use the $600,000 in various ways.
It's a call to the town board. You can make recommendations. The supervisor.
If anybody listening has a proposal, I would love to have them send it to me. I will present it to the town board and we can all discuss how to use. I mean, it's an unprecedented, it's $1.2+ million.
It is,
I hate
it's
that.
not $1.2 million from last year.
So what is it?
The fund balance from prior years was 600, close to 600,000. So it's another 600,000.
Because it's two waves, right? Is that correct? There was one part, we haven't received the second.
No, that you're talking about the ARP funds.
ARP funds.
Okay.
That's separate.
Those
So
are
what
from
is
private
that?
years.
So the 2021 unappropriated fund balance is,
That's 1.2 million is the unappropriated fund balance, the entire fund balance. It's not the additional from last year. Some of that is already in the fund balance and has to be maintained there.
and so what is the 2021 unappropriated funds?
Hey, Bill,
Yes, Jackie.
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I think that this should be a discussion amongst board members and you, so that we're just not throwing out these numbers. People have not a clue what you're talking about. So please discuss this so that
Why don't
everybody
you come in,
knows
why
what
don't
you're
you come in
talking
and get
about.
together, Bennett, and I can explain a little clearer.
I come in every week and I ask this question every week and
Yes.
I didn't come this week because I was
Well, I think we should talk a little bit more so maybe you have a clearer understanding of what monies we're talking about. I'm happy to do it.
I'd be more than happy to do that,
Good.
and I'd be more than happy to present.
That would make more
proposals.
sense to us listening here.
Thank you, Jackie. Public be heard. Frank, I think you had something you wanted to.
Yeah, Bill, just one quick point I forgot about before. Oh, by the way, my name is Frank Amy. I live at 59 Reynolds Lane. I am directly under the 10 Church Road C&D material dump. When this clear cutting and C&D material dumping started, my water was safe to drink. Now it is not. And that's just the point that I did not make before when we were talking about water testing. So that's all I have to add to that. Thank you.
Okay, that's interesting. Because the testing company didn't indicate that to me.
Yeah, they did, Bill, because you sent me the email from them that said, do not drink your water.
Oh, because of the not because of chemicals, because of coliform.
It doesn't matter that when they
Yeah.
clear cut this up here, I mean, I'm not a scientist, you're not a scientist.
No.
But when they change the flow of water by clear cutting and changing the shape of the land and filling it with dump material, all of a sudden, my water is not drinkable.
Good place for a CEA.
Thank you, Frank.
So,
Okay,
and I have two announcements.
okay,
Ready?
yes, go.
Public be heard?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one is, as you may recall, Supervisor McKenna and I were working on the Tinker Street project, and the New York State DOT is coming to the community center on July 7th at 7 p.m. So anybody that has questions, because it's a project that's gonna address the roads and address sidewalks, they're gonna have maps, they'll have, I think they'll have 3 tables set up where if you have questions, they're not gonna do a presentation, but they'll have different stations where you can go ask questions about what's happening. So that's July 7th, 7 p.m. at the Community Center in New York State DOT, coming for Q&A about the plan, which is being planned now, and I think the idea is construction would be in 2024, as I recall, but in any event, it's good to know now what's going on. And the other announcement, we all know, I'm sure, primary day is June 28th. You can early vote. I've already voted. I love early voting. If you go to the Ulster County Board of Elections website, you can get all the early voting places and the times, or you can vote at your regular place on Election Day, which is June 28th. But there's some pretty critical positions. It's not a presidential year, but there are a lot of critical positions, and your vote does count.
Laura, thank you. And with that, I'll call for adjournment. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Jeff, Paul, if you guys could spread the word down there about the 19th?
Yeah.
Thank you. See you too, Greg.
Go on, just want to ask a question about any special meetings coming up, or is the next meeting going to be the second Tuesday of July?
Second and third Tuesday, yes, no special meetings.
Okay, thank you, have a good night.
I
When do you get on the road?
don't anticipate.
As soon as we can tomorrow,
Actually, hey, before I forget too, we will have to take sexual harassment training at some point. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, I know that Pam and Lynn are gonna be doing a training if you guys wanted to come up.
Tomorrow at 1.
Yeah, there'll be other opportunities. So,
How long does that take?
give it about an hour.
Are you ending this?
The other thing is, I believe that on July 8th, we're gonna do a little potluck barbecue up at the highway garage. I think it's at 12 or 12:30.
Okay, thank you.
So if you wanna come in tomorrow, we'll do it in the, after.
Where is it, in here?
Here.
Okay.
Or